Did you miss Crosshair in the premiere episodes of The Bad Batch Season 2? Well, good news! Episode 3, The Solitary Clone, has you covered because it is all about him, and also this guy named Cody. We open up on a new planet named Desix as the Empire moves in to install their new governor, Groton, but the current and legitimate governor, Tawny Ames, isn't having it. First, let me point out that Desix is just a cool looking world. I love the design of the massive walled city, but this is another example of a time that I think Andor has enhanced this series. I was bummed it got delayed months to January, but the more we see of Season 2, the more I think it makes sense. Desix doesn't look like a great place to live, but neither did Ferrix, and yet the people of both worlds have pride for their homes. They are protective and they view their worlds as worth fighting for. I got that from Tawny immediately, but I'm not sure I would have without watching everything play out on Ferrix. And it's basically the same scenario we saw play out in flashbacks in Andor. The Empire is moving in, planting their flags across the galaxy. Cassian's father, Clem, seemed content to let the new government do whatever they wanted and then leave, but the people of Desix disagree, and that's because they were separatists, and this is such an interesting thing to see play out. There were a ton of separatist worlds, thousands of them. They seceded from the Republic and therefore would not fall under the jurisdiction of the Empire, as Tawny points out, so now we're getting to see an example of how the Empire invaded and took control of those worlds that refused to bend the knee, which is predictably through force, and that's where the clones come in. We see that Crosshair is still with the Empire, but I love that in the mess hall he sticks out like a sore thumb, dressed in all black, not in his armor, and of course he isn't a regular clone. We can see TK troopers walking around as well, as two clones discuss the defense recruitment bill, hoping it doesn't pass. I assume that's a new law about enlisting and conscripting soldiers instead of using clones, and the old Republic troops are understandably unhappy about that. I love the way this series is giving us a pretty detailed look at how the Empire transitioned from a republic into a dictatorship and everything that entails. But to focus in on a member of the Bad Batch, Crosshair is called into Rampart's office. I was expecting him to have some questions about the other members of Clone Force 99 since he just learned that they're all still alive, and I think that has to mean Crosshair lied about them. But for now, this episode is more about getting him back into the action. He has been medically cleared for active duty after being left for dead on that Kaminoan landing platform for 32 days. He was stranded so long, even Rampart scoffs and asks why he came back, but the Vice Admiral does admit that his loyalty is commendable. Rampart assigns him to Commander Cody's squad to remove the political troubles on Desix. I like that Crosshair doesn't immediately recognize him with the helmet on and just drab gray paint on his armor. Their first conversation is short, but so loaded. They talk about Clone Force 99 and other clones who have gone AWOL after Order 66. Crosshair calls them all traitors, but Cody's face shows some doubt. Still, he repeats the old mantra, good soldiers follow orders, and they head out on their mission. I did a video after Season 1 of The Bad Batch that is purely speculation, I'll make that clear, but most of the time when we hear a clone say, good soldiers follow orders, it's under some kind of duress. It's when they're doing something they clearly wouldn't do without the influence of the inhibitor chip. It's like the chip is trying to convince them that what they're doing is right. I think that's what Cody is telling himself now, that executing Order 66 was the right thing to do. In the meantime, they head to Desix for a good old Clone Wars style battle, clones versus the battle droids that are guarding Governor Groton. We get to know Tawny Ames a little more as she removes her helmet to reveal a younger woman than I expected, but still she saw that despite the Separatists losing the Clone Wars, Dooku was right. I'm guessing she didn't know he was in league with Palpatine the entire time, but either way, he was right about the corruption of the Republic giving way to something far worse. That's the whole reason he fell to the dark side in the first place, which we recently got to see in more detail in Tales of the Jedi. Tawny orders the clone shuttle shot down, and then the rest of the episode is just some fun, cool Star Wars action. Kevin Kiner's music is great, and Crosshair lives up to his reputation, finding unconventional solutions to familiar problems, like firing straight down the barrel of a tank to destroy it, or attaching a bomb to a B-1 droid and then shooting it into the shield of a droideka, and the progression of ramping into commando droids rocked, culminating in Crosshair's impossible possible shot. It is a cool sequence, plain and simple. But when they finally reach Tawny, that's my favorite scene of the episode. I think it was very intentional to make the entire battle seem like an episode of the Clone Wars, taking on so many different members of the droid army. It's familiar to Cody. Those are the enemies he fought against for 3 years. But then the droids are defeated, and he comes face to face with a living person. It's no longer the same fight. I think Cody is able to look past the prejudices Tech mentioned in episode 2 when he was talking with Romar. When Cody looks at Tawny, he doesn't simply see an enemy, he sees a leader trying to do right by her people, and he lays down his weapon. It sounds like he believes in the peace and order the Empire claims to want, but he's not gonna kill without a thought to achieve it. It was completely predictable that the Empire would see things differently, but it was still impactful when Crosshair pulled the trigger. Groton demands her body be placed in the town square as a warning, which is yet another connection to Andor and what happened on Ferrix. The following montage was awesome, completely silent, just showing the Empire moving in and taking over. Cody watches it all, and he sees a shuttle full of TK troopers landing while he and the surviving clones leave. He doesn't recognize this army anymore. He doesn't recognize their values. He tried to tell himself that the Empire and the Republic were one and the same, and there's no way to truly reconcile that. Back on Coruscant, he confronts Crosshair, asking the question that's on his mind. Are they really making the galaxy a better place? The other clone says they're soldiers. They do what needs to be done, which is just another way of saying good soldiers follow orders. But Cody points out that they aren't droids. They can make their own choices, and they also have to live with their bad ones. Desix was Cody's breaking point. I think he was trying to convince himself that he was right to execute Order 66. I don't think he knows about the inhibitor chip yet, so in his mind, he made a choice to turn on Obi-Wan and has been struggling to live with it ever since. I also think he's telling Crosshair to stop acting like a droid, to stop accepting every order without question. I love that earlier in the episode, Crosshair is taking on a tank single-handedly and says every tank has the same weakness, the droids that operate them. He views the droids as weak, and yet he is acting exactly like one. And it works out for him because that's what the Empire wants from its soldiers now. It wants people who will blindly follow orders. When he shows that he can still do that, Rampart rewards him with another mission with a new commander. Because Cody has gone AWOL, which means Crosshair's one and only clone friend within the Empire has left him just like the rest of the Bad Batch left him. He might still have several other clones around him, but he is alone. They want nothing to do with him. He is the solitary clone. All he has at this point is the Empire, which makes me want to go back to Rampart's question earlier in the episode, why? Why is he so loyal to a fascist government that will never value him as much as he values it? To try to answer that, I think we have to ask what he's afraid of, since fear is the root of the dark side. I'm guessing here, but I think Crosshair is afraid to be anything other than a soldier. If we look at the entire Bad Batch, he is the only member whose enhanced abilities are centered around violence and combat. Wrecker's super strength, Tech's intelligence, Hunter's enhanced senses, all those skills can be used for something besides war. Crosshair is really good at shooting and killing. That's his thing. So I wonder if he just doesn't know how to be anything but a soldier, and he's afraid that he will lose who he is and what makes him unique if he doesn't have a war to fight. I don't think that's true. I think he could find a better way to live, but at the moment, I think that's the fear that keeps him loyal. That and stubbornness after feeling abandoned by his brothers, and now he's been abandoned by Cody. Like I said after the season premiere, I do think there is hope for him. We know he must have lied to Rampart about the rest of the Batch's survival on Kamino, so he does have a line when it comes to the Empire. But for now, he is sticking with them. I thought this episode was great. Awesome action, good character moments for Cody and Crosshair, and a powerful exploration of the Empire's continued spread. Let me know what you thought of the solitary clone in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel to keep up with all our Bad Batch coverage, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and consider checking out our Patreon page for video reactions and audio commentaries for every episode as well. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.